Hi, welcome back to English 111 Online. This week we're going to do something entirely different from what we've been doing. We're going to begin getting ready to write our essay for our core project 1. The thing is that I want you to understand is um, the essay is not due right now. It's not due right now. So don't start writing your essay. That's the first thing to take into consideration. Do not start writing your essay yet. I'm going to walk you through the writing process. And the first thing we have to do is we have to get some ideas so that we can write about, so that we know what we're writing about. So in order to get those ideas, we're going to this week talk about ethos, logos, and pathos, which are three kinds of persuasion. And then you're going to take a look at some things and see if you can begin to recognize it. Ultimately, we're going to ask the question, does the reading that we're going to write our core project 2 on, which is how immigrants become other, right here, page 65 to 73 in Rereading America. If you don't happen to have the 13th edition with you, I also put a tab on there, or a link to a document that has the same information on in it, so you can read it online. But what you're going to be looking for is the kinds of persuasive arguments that the Marcelo and Carola Suarez Orozco have used in order to make their argument that immigrants that come into our country become something other than normal citizens like we are, and live an entirely different kind of life than we live, a life that is the constant fear of being caught in the country and being sent back to a dangerous situation from which they came, or something to that effect. So how convincing are the Suarez Orozcos in their presentation? And so that's what we're going to write about ultimately. But first of all, let's just get our ideas together. Okay. I've given you a dialectical journal to complete. A dialectical journal is just something where you're kind of having a conversation with yourself. And I'll show you that in just a minute. The first thing I want you to do this week is to listen to or to view this short video on ethos, logos, and pathos. Basically, ethos are the kinds of arguments that persuade the reader that there is authority in writing about the subject anyway. So you'll find that the ethos, you'll find that in the not autobiographical, but the biographical information before the actual reading. You'll see by what authority do they write, and it'll tell you what their authority is. Another thing with ethos is the writing believable? Have they used sources and documented their own sources? In other words, given where they got their references from. That builds ethos. Logos is logic, facts and figures, surveys that have been done, studies that have been done. That is the kind of thing that would be their logos. And pathos would be something that would appeal to the emotions. Something to, I'm sure you've seen those commercials on TV for the ASPCA where they have the little shivering dogs out in the snow, and that pulls at your heartstrings. And Or it doesn't have to make you exactly sad, feeling sad for some reason. It can also make you feel angry about a certain situation. It's anything that appeals to the emotions is pathos. I had asked you before to read How to Do Gender. Here it is for you if you want to read that. It is in our book also, but here's the link to it in case you want to read it online. And then here's the link that I was talking about, How Immigrants Become Other. That's the link to that one. I provided a sample MLA formatted essay on a reading from our text. And I wrote about, get rid of this advertisement over there. And I wrote about using rhetorical strategies to establish effectiveness in how to do gender. Now, we're not writing about how to do gender. We're writing about how immigrants become other. And so this is just a sample to show you. The title, Using Rhetorical Strategies to Establish Effectiveness in How to Do Gender. And I have started here with just something that everybody's probably heard. An old saying describes little boys as being made up of snips, snails, and puppy dog tails, and little girls as being made of sugar, spice, and everything nice. Not every little girl matches that description, and neither does every little boy. People, in fact, according to the authors of How to Do gender as they are taught and as they wish to express themselves. And that's Ferry and Wade, page 480. According to the biographical information preceding their essay, Lisa Wade and Myra Marks Ferry demonstrate that gender roles are flexible, subject to culture, context, and even individual preference. They explain how views of gender are influenced by American culture, how one learns the rules of gender, and how one sometimes breaks those rules. In order to effectively demonstrate their point that gender roles are flexible, the authors use the rhetorical strategies of anecdote, definitions, and historical facts. And then I go on with my body paragraphs, and I explain by giving you sections, pulling in text from the reading to show you how they use that. I start with the story starts with a little story, an anecdote, to prove a point, and the point that she's trying to prove is that, or that they are trying to prove, is that excuse me, they're trying to prove that gender is flexible. It's different. The story of the little boy wearing the barrettes to school, and how the other little boy was really mixed up about what gender actually means. For each of the body paragraphs, I gave a topic sentence, and then I brought out the examples of in the second example was the definitions that they give, and how they give us those, how they use that to convince us that gender is flexible. And then finally, I give the example of the earrings that are talked about in How to Do Gender, and how they give historical facts to back up, to show that gender and how we express it is indeed flexible. So that is there for you, so you can see how I used some examples from that reading to do my essay. Although I gave Cindy Lou Who credit for that, it was actually my essay. All right. So, what I want you to do is read the essay, and then I want you to how immigrants become other, and then I want you to make notes in the dialectical journal as you read it. So you're trying to find examples of ethos, logos, and pathos that are either convincing, or even if they're not convincing, you can mention that too. But you'll choose one side when we get ready to write the essay. You're just getting your notes together right now, but eventually you'll say, yes, the rhetorical strategies that they used in how immigrants become other, you will say that it's convincing, or you'll say that all of their stuff that they used is not very convincing. I think you'll find it convincing as you read it, though. Here is I put also another activity for you to do, to click on the answer garden here. It says click this link to put examples that are convincing, and you can submit as many answers as you want, but each answer can only be 20 characters per answer. So if I click on that, I put some words up there myself. So there's some expert testimonies, stories, statistics, and you can add to that. You won't get a grade for that. It's totally voluntary for you to do that. But here's the dialectical journal. So what you're going to need to do is click on that and make a copy. To make a copy, you go up to File, and then you go down to Make a Copy, and you click on that, and it's going to give you a copy. You can change the title there to something other than what it says, because it's going to say a copy of evidence and how immigrants become other. You could put your own name on it or whatever you want to do. You could just leave it like that, though, because I'll know who you are when you submit it on the Turnitin link. All right, so make a copy, and then in that copy you can just type right in on the journal itself here. So it says example of ethos. Type the passage that is your example of ethos. And I started your sentence. An example of ethos is whatever you found, even if it's that biographical information at the beginning, or whatever it happens to be, and include page numbers when you do that. And then over here on the other side, this is where you have the dialogue with yourself. Is this evidence convincing? Thoroughly explain why or why not. What makes it convincing to you? What is it about it that appeals to you and makes you believe them? And do the same thing for logos and pathos, which is on the next page. And every time include the page numbers, because we'll need that when we start writing the essay. But that's what you're doing for this week, is reading and making notes on that dialectical journal. When you get finished with your dialectical journal, you're going to submit it on the Turnitin link here, and that will be due before midnight this coming Sunday night. So let me know if you have any problems. I think it's a pretty straightforward assignment, and you will have to read the essay, but it's pretty short essay, short compared to some of the essays, short compared to how to do gender. So 65 to 73 in Rereading America is where you're going to find that. So have fun with this assignment, and get your ideas together, and then next week we'll talk about what are we going to do with these ideas, how are we going to create an introduction paragraph with a good thesis statement. But that's your assignment for this week. So have fun with it, enjoy it, and get a lot of good ideas. and I'll see you next time.